I don't know her. It was a throwaway sentence that went on to become one of the internet's first real memes. Mariah Carey's simple proclamation in response to a question about Jennifer Lopez in an interview straight from her Bringin on the Heartbreak music video set is one of the finest textbook definitions of shade that anyone could ever hope to find. And yet behind those 4 words is a world of pain, heartbreak, and jealousy that most people know nothing about. It's a world that reads like something straight out of a soap opera. This is the story behind the infamous Mariah Carey and Jennifer Lopez feud. Our story starts when an 18-year-old Mariah accompanied pop star friend Brenda K. Starr to a record label executive's gala, where she handed her Ben Margulies produced demo tape to the head of Sony Records, Tommy Mottola. Carey and Margulies would later go on to have a meeting with Mottola, who, believing that Margulies was Carey's boyfriend, made it his mission to push him out of the picture as he signed Mariah to a $350,000 deal. Mottola quickly took a large hand in Carey's career, to the extent that the two were barely ever seen without each other. Later in life, Mottola would admit that he was obsessive, but with the caveat that that was the reason for her success. Rumors of a romance began to fly, and it wasn't long before they were proven to be true. Mottola proposed to Carey in 1992, 2 years after her first album and shortly after the dissolution of his 19-year marriage. Sadly, the marriage was not to be a happy one. Carey suffered from non-stop reports of favoritism, with more than one reporter suggesting that she had married Mottola simply for his connections. Even more troubling was the fact that Carey, who hadn't been in a serious relationship before, was facing emotional abuse almost daily that left her miserable, crying, and alone. Carey would later recount that she had remained sequestered from the outside world and had to get permission to leave the house. "He didn't even know why I always had a bag with me," she later said, "but in my mind I thought if something jumps off, I'm ready." Although Carey finally managed to escape Mottola in 1997, that wouldn't be the last time she saw him. After all, Mottola was still the head of Carey's record label and wielded great power over her career. Butterfly was released in late 1997, and with it, Carey had fought hard to achieve her sexier image and more breathy vocals that will later become her signature. By the time Rainbow, the last album Carey would record for Sony, was released, her relationship with the label had completely deteriorated. Sony wanted a big pop song to push for a single, but Mariah wanted the ballad Can't Take That Away to be released instead. She told her fans about the dispute and instructed they request the song on radio to force Sony into an official release, which they eventually did, only half-heartedly and with limited promotion. Carey would soon sign a record-breaking $100 million contract with EMI, but money couldn't buy her happiness. By 2001, Carey had begun to work on a semi-autobiographical film called Glitter, and the film and its soundtrack had created a workload that she couldn't sustain. She broke up with her boyfriend of 3 years, Luis Miguel, and began posting disturbing voice messages on her official website, announcing that she would quit music. An erratic appearance on Total Request Live in which Carey handed out ice cream and performed a striptease did nothing to help her public image. And meanwhile, Mottola back at Sony was doing everything he could to destroy her. Mottola had discovered Jennifer Lopez in 1997, when she was fresh off the wheels of her star turn in Selena, and sending Spanish demos to various record labels. At this point, Mottola had recently separated from Carey, and it seemed his self-proclaimed obsession with her had been transferred to Lopez. Mottola had sent JLO to the top of the charts with On the Six, but he wasn't done yet. Lopez's sophomore album JLO was released in 2001, and it featured a song titled I'm Real. Strangely, the song sampled Yellow Magic Orchestra's Firecracker, a song which hadn't been requested for sample at all up until 3 weeks prior, when Mariah Carey had requested to use it for her song Loverboy. Irv Gotti will later go on to confirm that this was a deliberate ploy by Tommy Mottola to sabotage Carey's Loverboy release, which was already scheduled to be the first single from the Glitter soundtrack, and an instrumental part of the film itself. Unable to reshoot the scenes, Mariah Carey scrambled to find a new sample for Loverboy, settling on Cameo's Candy. However, she would go on to release a remix of Loverboy with Da Brat, which utilized Firecracker heavily, with Da Brat rapping, "Hate on me much as you want to, can't do what the fuck I do, bitches be emulating me daily." This wasn't the only way in which Mottola undercut Mariah Carey's Glitter campaign. Mariah had recorded a track called If We for the project with Ja Rule, his first foray into R&B.
Baby, I need you, baby. Why me?
Irv Gotti will later recall that shortly after the record was finished, he was contacted by Mottola obscenely early, who instructed him to make a collaboration for Jennifer and Ja Rule in the same style of If We. "He calls me because he found out that me and Ja Rule had cut a record with Mariah Carey," Gotti stated. and at the time he hated Mariah Carey, so he was pumping Jennifer Lopez to compete. Mottola even loaned Gotti the company jet to ensure that Ja Rule, who was on tour at the time, would be able to film the music video for this collaboration. Gotti worked with Ashanti and Ja Rule to craft I'm Real Murder Remix, which was released shortly after to huge success, and which sounded more than a little similar to If We. While JLo topped the charts, Mariah began a downward spiral, which started with the lukewarm reception to Loverboy, and only continued when Glitter was released. Matters only got worse when her father, who she had little contact with since childhood, died of cancer, and she was bought out of her contract with EMI for $50 million. Despite this, Carey didn't speak about the situation publicly until sometime after. Speaking to MTV about the firecracker fiasco, Carey stated, "Let's just say they did me a favor, and they know who they are. And thank you, sweetie, and your friend who did it with you." The infamous "I don't know her" remark was uttered until 2003, when Carey had clearly moved from bitterness onto pettiness, and since then it's been reiterated many times in many different ways. Which leaves us wondering, will the two divas ever kiss and make up? Carey's annoyance towards her ex-husband's new plaything was understandable at the time, but this many years on, it seems obvious that Lopez was only a pawn in Mottola's game, and he was the one to blame for her infamous career spiral.
Obsessed with me, boy.